Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to offer dana, then please do go to justthiszen.org/giving. Your support really does make a huge difference. Thank you so much.
Welcome everyone on this Tuesday morning, Tuesday lunchtime, Tuesday evening, wherever you are around the Northern Hemisphere. It's great to see you. Really good to be with you this evening, this lunchtime, this morning. So we're going to move into 10 minutes of sitting. And then we'll have the verse of the robe at the end of that period. So Ed is going to ring the bell this evening. So thank you very much, Ed. Over to you. Say with me the verse of the robe. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. When Dongshan was leaving his teacher Yunyan, who he would never see again, and of course, in 8th century China there was no internet or mobile phones. Yunyan said, "Well, I won't see you again." And Dongshan said, "It will be hard not to meet." And I want to acknowledge that this evening as the presence of our teacher Flint, which permeates this community. Even in his absence, it's hard not to meet him. John Tarrant said, "People wait and live inside questions. Mistakes lead through doors." I wonder what questions are waiting and living inside you this evening. Perhaps they're questions you've carried with you for a long time, perhaps a lifetime. And what mistakes have you made that have led you out through doors to some freedom? One of the questions I have for me this evening is to study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. And I have previously thought of it as a kind of, you study the self and then that's done, and then you forget the self, rather naively. And I'm now thinking it's a continuous process of becoming intimate with the self and forgetting the self, and becoming intimate with the self and forgetting the self, and opening to something more vast. Flint spoke about Emily Dickinson last week. He said, "I am out with lanterns looking for myself. And he was very touched by that in relation to his pilgrimage this month. And perhaps I have kept this with me during the week, but because perhaps I am out with lanterns looking for myself. And I wonder this evening, or whatever time scale you're in at the moment, perhaps you could light a lantern and we'll go out looking for ourselves, if that is possible. But what I'd like to look at tonight, rather like in the autumn you look for mushrooms, I'd like to look for turning words in the garden. Turning words. And turning words are words that suddenly turn you towards freedom, to a truth. They can be found within a Dharma talk, but also something heard in a conversation between two passing strangers in the street, a whisper in your ear, a novel or a poem. And they can also be heard in non-word things, in any form, in the sound of birdsong, in a Rembrandt late self-portrait, and in weeds on the sidewalk, and in trees. I don't know whether I've mentioned in this community the Korean Zen teacher Sing San. I know I've mentioned this in other Dharma talks, but I'm rather attracted to it. And he had a student called Ed who wrote him long, self-concerned letters. He was a very sincere student, but he went on and on and on in his letters. And Sing San replied very patiently to him, to all of his points, until about the 7th letter. He said, "I want a short letter from you next time. You must go outside and ask the tree in front of the temple what the true way is. Then this tree will teach you. Don't write me anything else. Just tell me what the tree said to you." So perhaps the tree offered a turning word, a turning experience to Ed. I never found out. A couple of weeks ago, I received an email from Denise Alvarez, one of our dear Sangha friends. And she said, I have penciled a preset meeting for tonight, but in my head I remember that we will not meet until September. Who is right, my agenda or me? And I wrote back, because there was no meeting that evening, I said, your reflection for today, Denise, is trust yourself and not your agenda. In a kind of light-hearted way. But those words resonated with me long after I'd sent them. Trust yourself and not your agenda. And of course, she was referring to her diary. But for me, it was about actually going beyond my ideas of purpose to something much more profound. And clearly, there's an element in which I want to really trust myself and not any agenda that I have, any ideas I have. And our agendas bring us and get us here to practice. And once here, the invitation is to trust ourselves, to trust this practice beyond any ideas we have about ourselves and this practice. Katagiri Roshi once wrote that if you go to a chemist, there are 3 drugs suitable for you at any one time. And similarly, there are 3 teachings suitable for you at any one time. Perhaps more, perhaps slightly less. But the whole range of teachings may not apply to your situation at any one time. So something about practice is finding what it is that is the thing for you, the teaching for you. In one of his Dharma talks, Suzuki Roshi said, you should have the attitude that this teaching is just for you. Last week, Flint talked about Maggie Smith and her book, You Could Make This Place Beautiful. Isn't that a wonderful title? You could make this place beautiful. Perhaps that could be a turning word. And she says, how I picture it, we are all nesting dolls, carrying the earlier iterations of ourselves inside. We carry the past inside us. We take ourselves, all of ourselves, wherever we go. Inside 40-something me is the woman I was in my 30s, the woman I was in my 20s, the teenager I was, the child I was. Inside divorced me, married me, the me who loved my husband, the me who believed what we had was irrevocable and permanent, the me who believed in permanence. I still carry these versions of myself. It's a kind of reincarnation without death. All these different lives we get to live inside this one body as ourselves. And as I look at the screen now, I see so many nesting dolls, beautiful nesting dolls, carrying the earlier iterations of ourselves, the past inside us, and the roles we played. Perhaps you can think as I speak of some of the roles, the many, many roles you've played in your life. And here you are. My 3-year-old twin grandsons, when they look at the photographs in our kitchen, they don't get how this can be, how I, that young man with long auburn hair, can be their grandfather. They think it's their uncle. It's like it's just too inconceivable that this could happen. And sometimes it's just inconceivable for me that here I am, with all these nesting dolls inside me going way back through many, many decades. Shakespeare, in As You Like It, said, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. During my adult life, I've followed the actor Steve Martin, not intentionally, but I've stumbled across his films and I really appreciate him. And we actually share a birthday, although he's just a few years older than me. And it's really interesting to see somebody age on the screen. It's something new for us since the invention of television. We see people playing all of these roles as they develop and change through life. I guess around about 1988, perhaps, I was a teacher in a high school, and I came home one evening feeling quite depressed and anxious and unhappy, and Trudy had got a Steve Martin film from the video shop, as you do in those days, and I said, no, I don't want to watch anything, I'm too miserable to watch anything. And it was either The Three Amigos or Trains, Planes and Automobiles. Anyway, she put it on, and slowly I completely thawed and found it really funny. And sometimes I take myself really seriously, and I just love the relief of humor. And so I was very grateful to Steve Martin and the other actors in the film, Martin Short, for just offering a relief, an experience for me. So on to a turning word. So in 1989, Steve Martin, with others, made a film called Parenthood. And this was at a time when I was really struggling as a father and really struggling with the what I perceived as the chaos in our family. And so again, Trudy found Parenthood to watch. So if the universe had said, there is one gem, one turning word, just for you embedded in this movie, I would have missed it, because I would be purposefully looking for it. Because I think we stumble over turning words. They invite us. So Tao, 8th century China, said to his student Lungtan, for true perception, you must see right on the spot. As soon as you begin to ponder and reflect, you miss it. So we started watching this film, and I didn't know how it was going to go. And it's about Gil Buckman, who's a sales executive. And when he finds out that his eldest son, Kevin, has emotional problems and needs counselling, that his 2 younger children, Taylor and Justin, both have issues as well, he begins to blame himself and his abilities as a father. I know that. And then when his wife, Karen, becomes pregnant with their 4th child, he is unsure whether he can handle it. So there's this scene, and Gil is complaining to his wife, Karen, played by Mary Steenburgen, about the fact that there's a 4th child coming and it's going to complicate things. And Karen says, what do you want me to give you? These kids are not appliances. Life is messy. And Gil says, I hate messy. It's so messy. And for me, that was a complete turning word, that somebody could say to me, it's okay for life to be messy. This is what it is. This is family life. And I felt so grateful for that experience. And I wonder for you, through your life as the varied nesting dolls that you are, what turning words have come to you and really supported you? I'm going to read a poem by Denise Levertov, which speaks to this. She says, 2 girls discover the secret of life in a sudden line of poetry. I, who don't know the secret, wrote the line. They told me, through a 3rd person, they had found it, but not what it was, not even what line it was. No doubt by now, more than a week later, they have forgotten the secret, the line, the name of the poem. I love them for finding what I can't find, and for loving me for the line I wrote, and for forgetting it, so that 1,000 times till death finds them, they may discover it again in other lines, in other happenings, and for wanting to know it, for assuming there is such a secret, yes, for all that, most of all. And as I read that, I felt such love and gratitude for everyone in our various sanghas for wanting to know the secret, if there is a secret. Assuming there is such a secret, yes, for that, most of all. So, we come on to a slightly different aspect now, because for me, knowing life is messy was really helpful to this separate self, this person who functioned in the world. It was a truth amongst other truths. But I'm not sure it's realization, and I'm really curious about the difference between realization and understanding. Katagiri Roshi wrote, when I was 19, I listened to talks by Hashimoto Roshi. I didn't expect to understand what he said, but I really wanted to hear him. What I can tell you now is only this point. At that point, I felt the truth of what he said in his talks, but I couldn't put any names on it. But what does this mean? It means that the naked reality of being is full of richness, but you cannot name it. You cannot understand it. It is not the point that you should try to understand it. If you want to know, you should know the reason why you cannot know it. So at some point, another talk, I'd love to explore realization and understanding and the difference between those two things. So my question is around turning words, and my appreciation is how beautiful they are and how profound they are, but are they realization? Thank you very much.
So
I
you got me. And I was just like, at first I thought, no, I'm not going to raise my hand. And then the more it was working on me, the more it was just like, I'm raising my hand as soon as the time comes, I'm raising my hand. And it's about the forgetting. It's exactly what you were just kind of finishing up there with the realization and the awareness of it. And as you were talking, I was remembering a moment I had with Ed this week, and we had talked about something, and then then we had an email of, what was that thing we just said? And not being able to like land on that and like really sitting with it and thinking about it and it just being elusive. And both of us knew at the moment that, that moment that it was happening, that we were both like, oh, that's a thing. And now just gone. And my question, I guess, is what makes it leave? What makes it like be so gone? Like, how can something be so touching and then so evasive, like really good at hide and seek?
That's a great question. I think Trudy was talking about E. Cummings, and it's something like, we find the nature of reality and forget that we've put it in our pocket. I wonder whether it kind of still works away, even though consciously we don't know what was said. It's a more body mind than knowledge.
And so then I've got like the second arrow of judging, of not being able to like, put it in its box on the shelf and on the folder in the computer so that I can find it again.
So there's a judgment about your kind of understanding or your retention or something.
Yeah, or my, my studentness, am I not a good, so like self-judging, like, oh, I must not be a good student if I can't, surely if this was that important to me, it would be etched in stone, not floating on a feather.
Yeah, I mean, it would be etched in stone if you were trying hard as a separate self, I guess. You would be diligent and maybe you would be writing notes but maybe I don't know who said this, but the Dharma comes in the back door while you're looking out the front. So what the impressions we get from any talk are going to be ephemeral at best, I think, sometimes. I constantly forget what's been said.
And I guess that's what makes the turning words so spot on.
Yeah.
Is that they just like, oh, surprise.
Yeah, I think they can be really profound, and it's they're a real contribution to our practice, and then we forget, and then we sit again, and they find their place inside us somewhere.
Another little part that I find interesting is that I've often had the most profound moments with the prepositions in words or in sentences or in phrases. And it's like that I'm not ever going to get freedom from something, but I am going to get freedom in something.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. I love that because the freedom, I think what you're pointing to is a freedom that you can actually practice. Freedom from is maybe temporary, do you think?
Or an illusion in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. So there's like a koan there. What is freedom
Yeah.
within?
Yeah.
Um, which is a great question. How, and that's something about trusting, I think, that you can find freedom within.
Yeah.
So there's something really rich. I love what you're describing, and I resonate with you, forgetting things as those girls in the poem did.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's amazing, but I can't remember the line or um, but they'll
And we're
come back.
probably like, I'm probably further away from studying myself in those situations. And that's what creates the flow of it
Yes.
happening in the first place.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, it sounds like you've created some space around yourself to become intimate with it. Study is a difficult word, isn't it? Because it has all sorts of Western connotations about effort and retention, and
grabbing water. Yeah.
yeah, maybe in becoming intimate with this self we have, and then becoming intimate with the space of forgetting the self. Um, it's a beautiful process, actually.
Yeah.
And it's funny, when I said I like humor, it's like try so hard to study the self, and then, well, I'm supposed to forget it. It's rather lovely.
Yeah.
Let's
So,
let's enjoy
thank,
that.
yeah. Thanks for bringing playful energy into the inquiry. It worked on me. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Cassie. Hello, Leah.
Hello, hi Josh.
Nice to meet
Thank
you.
you. Good to meet you. Thank you for reminding. Um, I love that reminder of the dolls.
Yeah.
I think I didn't really quite get it last time when Flint was, it didn't hit me the same way last time when Flint was talking about it, but I don't know. Today it just showed up differently, I was actually like almost like had a I don't know, like a journey through my life in a way that just something that hit me was like, wow, every time a layer or a new dog got created, I, when I was conscious of it, it was the practice of letting go of an attachment that
Yeah.
something should be this way or I should be this way, or, it's that sort of letting go. And it's really painful, but the practice is so joyful at the same time. Like it's almost like like that, like it's like resistance, and then the pain's gonna come, but through the other side is going to be joy, and it's going to be this new doll, and I just I just was wanting to like I just really love it. I love the metaphor because
Yeah.
I used to think of it as like a rebirth, but we're not letting go of all those parts are still with me. Just
Yeah.
appreciating them. Yeah.
They're all within you, and I'm really
Yeah.
loving the joy with which you describe actually allowing them to be
Hmm.
to be there, and and also we don't really have any choice. So you know Like,
But we don't stop resisting, though.
resisting. I mean, I wonder, I find the analogy of the actors helpful because, you
Mm,
you play a role and then you do a new play or a new movie and then you're doing that and you're learning that part. And maybe, we're kind of learning new parts all the time, whilst knowing we also have those other parts inside us. Um, yeah, we're rich, aren't we? We're,
yes,
we're
that's the
so
beauty.
we're so rich and wondrous. Wow.
Hmm. Hmm. Thank you for bringing that
Yeah,
to
thank
present
you.
for me.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you. Beautiful teaching today.
Hi, Bridget.
Hello, Josh. Thanks for being with us. I'm so grateful for this topic. You asked about turning words, and the word that comes to me is courage, which, of course, is based in a French word that probably has a Latin meaning, cœur, heart.
Yes.
And, I'm certainly flattening out my learning curve on that. But when you spoke about Steve Martin, we had our second child in 1988. And I think eventually we saw that movie Parenthood. And of course, there's nothing like the chaos. I mean, they prepare you so much for giving birth, but you have no idea until you have a child. You go, oh, so
Yeah.
this is what parenthood is like.
Mhm.
So it's very humbling. And but an actor that I have followed is Helen Mirren.
Oh, yeah.
And just this last weekend, I saw a play that had been made into a movie based on a real life story in the UK called Calendar Girls.
Okay.
They're a group of women in a women's institute group in a small town in Yorkshire decide they need to have a fundraiser because they want to replace the couch in the waiting room of the local hospital that has it just apparently has the springs are all broken. And that's all they wanted to do. But to do this, they've all agreed to hire a photographer who will set up the cameras, but one of the women will take the photographs because they're going to partially disrobe so
Yes.
that they can sell these calendars. And of course, the probably when I saw the film, I was 20 years younger than I am now.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, yeah, those ladies were gutsy. What I didn't realize in the program is they ended up raising almost 600,000 pounds for their cancer treatment center because it was before the internet when they did this, but in a sense it went viral because so many people were shocked these women would do this. And so I found that very laughable and also inspiring. So there are a lot of things that can give us courage, particularly humor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for sort of resonating with parenthood and the film and the activity.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Thank you so
Glad
much.
you're here.
Thank you. Hi, Rosemary.
Oh, Josh. And thank you for bringing back the nesting dolls like Leah said. Leah. Yeah, that resonated for me. I'm working with some old roles and it's very interesting because one of my old roles, family begun, is the helper, the always helper, always. And in leaving, my choices are open for when I do and when I don't, and when maybe the request for help might actually be helpful or not. Just making these choices, it's not always comfortable for others.
Yeah.
And then I'm faced with how does that feel, and trusting myself is what you were talking about. And I think the turning words for me right now is to come back to that, because based on the impact that this new freedom on my part might have on others, I may begin to not trust myself.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you're in a kind of a new place. You're trying out.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, just working with that and coming back to that it's okay. You know, others will adapt. You know, if I'm trusting myself.
Well, it takes a courage, as Bridget was alluding to try something new, and it can be a bit shaky.
Yeah, it's risky all the time. It's risky all the time. For me, mostly about the impact that, the response that I might be getting. And Leah said something that was really important. Oh, about embracing the old roles. They didn't, they were there for a reason, and we didn't have anything to do with really developing them. That comes from history and all of that. So they're not to be disparaged.
Not at all. Not at all. And
well, that would be my way. Sorry, that's like we're onto a new path.
So there's something about really taking care of potential disparagement from the place of current practice. Yeah, really taking care of yourself, because it takes courage. Yeah.
To accept all of it.
Yes. To really avow it. Yeah. With the help of Sangha friends. Yeah. We need each other to do this difficult path.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I'm sure you're speaking for other people with their nesting dolls today. There are a good number. There's 34 people with maybe 6 or 7 nesting dolls. So that's a lot of dolls.
I see shaking heads. So
if you look around, you're not alone. Really, we all need to take care of ourselves really tenderly with these things, and to to practice in the present, actually, from the place of the present. Take care of now. Be kind.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Hi, Sun.
Hi, how are you? I haven't met you, I don't think, Josh.
No, it's the first time I've met you.
It's a pleasure. I appreciate you hosting us today. So there was a couple things you said. Well, so many things. One was Steve Martin. Who doesn't love Steve Martin? There's a documentary about him now, and it's just glorious.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah, it's so good. It's worth watching multiple times. And then there was some words you used, like Cassie was mentioning how you forget. So I just have these impressions of words that you used. And one of them was trust. I think you said trust in mind or something along those lines.
Just trust yourself, not your agenda.
Yeah. So it made me think of for years, Peg and Flint would teach us to inquire into the nature of mind. And I mean, they still do, but that was a big part of my early experience, was trying to understand what am I bringing to reality? How am I intervening and kind of messing with it instead of just being intimate with it. And so I spent a lot of time trying to sort that and kind of inquire and wonder and like that. And then one day Peg said, here, she recommended a book to me called Trust in Mind.
Yes.
And it just spun my head around because I thought my whole inquiry was be skeptical of mind. So in classic Zen style, it's like, wait, what? And so I was thinking about the one thing I can trust. And I do have an inquiry around what we're trusting, but I know the one thing I can trust about the mind for myself is that it will get it wrong, and therefore I'll get information that I can trust, and I don't mean wrong in a disparaging way. I just mean it will do what it does, and I will learn something that I didn't want to learn, or get some feedback I was hoping I wouldn't get. Like I trust that,
So one of the first things I said today was mistakes open doors.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So they
Nice.
open, and hope potentially they open doors to freedom because we have new opportunities we never thought would be possible because of our mistakes.
Totally.
So they're just part of what we do.
Yeah.
Also trusting that you can manage your mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of Dogen. One of the things that left the greatest impression on me was about one continuous mistake, the philosophy.
Yes.
And I embraced it, as best I can. And speaking of the nesting dolls, that sort of metaphor that we're using today, I was thinking about how like the helper, Rosemary mentioned the helper. And so I think a lot of women have a helper parts of us that sometimes get it wrong, and lean in when people aren't asking for help or have the perfect solution and no one needs it and like that. So I was thinking about how maybe there's a world in which your nesting doll, just like how Tibetan deities have like different emanations of their same natural gift,
Yes.
like perhaps there's ways to mobilize it in a way that is actually useful instead of your agenda, what you're, I don't know if that makes sense.
It does, and it makes me think about, you were talking about the mind, and the mind you have is the current mind you have. Here we are right now. This is what you're with. So all of those nesting dolls you see with your current mind, you experience with your current mind. So I'm thinking out loud here, but I'm thinking how to take care of our minds now. Whatever we're thinking about, whether it's nesting dolls or helping or whatever, it's how can we take care of this mind right now, around regrets about the future or helping, or that's the trust. In a way, physically, my talk is just a hand on the elbow saying, I trust you. If I was with you, I'd go, I trust you. You will find your way.
It's a turning nudge. And that is beautiful. I trust you, you will find your way. I'm taking that. That's a turning phrase for me today.
Great.
I'm taking that with me. Because I think that the maternal instinct is to not trust that they can handle themselves. Right? So I'm like, oh, yes, Josh, bless you.
That's
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
Hello upstairs. I was thinking about the nesting dolls image, and I don't know if you remember, but I wrote a poem just before my entrustment last year, and so is it okay if I read it?
do. I'd love that. Yes.
Okay. It's called For My Names They Are Many.
Mm.
For my names they are many. Trudy, child, tinker, mucky pup, daughter, sister, friend, schoolgirl, lover, student, dropout, nun, student, shop owner, Hema, teacher, wife, mother, housewife, student, counsellor, therapist, supervisor, trainer, grandmother, student, teacher, trainer, student, great-grandmother. And now a new name and a new family that join the list of things I have been and I have done, all flow and all ebb, each part becoming the next thing, although each part is also entire unto itself. What names do we give ourselves? What names do we cherish or loathe? Which names trap us and which free us? There is a koan. Show me your original face before you were born. Right now, my koan is, tell me your name before you had one.
Mm.
And I was just thinking about that. The names that trap us and the names that free us.
Yeah.
And something about, finding freedom in being all of these things that I've been lucky enough to inhabit, to have lived long enough to inhabit. And that feels a really precious gift, and I couldn't be any one of the next role if I hadn't had the previous one. So it's something about the onion grows outward.
I love that poem, and I remember it. I'm so glad you've shared it. And as you know, there are things in our pasts that we go, I, I fucked that up pretty much.
Fairly spectacular ones.
But, that we've worked to. I wouldn't be me if I hadn't. It all creates the person we are.
Mm.
I think, there was a poem I read from, not a poem, but Kobunshino Roshi's final teaching. He said, self-acceptance is the hardest thing to do.
Mm.
But if we don't, we live in this darkest night.
Mm.
Yeah.
And there's something so tender about that, isn't there? About that being able to turn to all the different iterations and know they were doing their best. And sometimes it wasn't very good. And carry on, just carry on. So thank you. I'll see you for a cup of tea soon.
Yeah, it's the most beautiful thing. I haven't had an opportunity to read the chats, but I know they're all really supportive and kind, and it's just so important that we're supporting each other all the time. Laurie, good to see you.
It's good to see you, and I just wanted to say something quickly that before we end, that I really appreciate your talk today. Your timing is impeccable. It's exactly what I needed to hear today. I'm so in this space of looking at past iterations and how those are affecting the present and working with that, or seeing it now, being more aware today than I was yesterday, and working with that.
So something has touched you around that inquiry of inside you. Yeah, I can
very deeply.
I can feel it. And you say my timing was impeccable, but our timing is impeccable because we've co-created something. So it's really beautiful to see you and to feel your tenderness and courage. Thank you so much. So So we're moving towards the closing verses now. So we're going to say the 4 practice principles together three times. Thank you. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher. Being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher. Being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher. Being just this moment, compassion's way. Thank you so much, everybody. In particular, thanks to Ed for holding the space for us all this evening. And I look forward to seeing you, I think, next month at some point. So thank you.